Picture this: your heart starts to race and your palms start to sweat. Just by the thought of having the conversation that you're planning to have in your head for the last 2, 3 days, now you have to have that conversation. You can't do it. Or maybe you've been invited to a party, you go to university and there's one guy in your class and then he's part of the society and then he invited you to this gig slash party where there's going to be 20 to 30 people, but you don't really know anyone there. The guy that invited you, we don't really know him either. You just know him through class and you just had small talk with him a couple times before. And now you sort of want to go to this party because you know that you might be able to meet some people, network, and make some friends. But at the same time, the thought of you going to that party without knowing anyone stops you from pursuing it in the first place. Now, ultimately, you know it's beneficial for you, but your mind or your brain is telling you otherwise because you have all these thoughts that you're going through in your head. You're thinking, hey, what if I go to this party and I make a fool of myself? I'm in university, or I'm at work, right? I just started work in this particular uh company, and I don't want to be known as the guy who is a fool. Essentially, nobody wants that, right? And you don't know anyone there, and so you're just really shy and you're naturally a bit more introverted, and you find it really hard to talk to people who you don't really know beforehand. And these are the situations that I've been in the past. I moved from Dubai to Sydney when I was 18 to pursue my mechanical engineering bachelor's. This was around 4.5 years ago. And because I didn't really know many people here, if any, I had my brother here and some extended family, but that was about it. So all the friends that I had to make were, you know, made essentially by me putting myself out there in social situations, which I wasn't really comfortable with in the beginning. But over the last 4 to 5 years, I've become a lot more comfortable in putting myself in these situations. And there's a lot of things that I've learned, which I didn't know beforehand about my body, about my neurological system, whatever you want to call the brain, and how I was able to overcome those thoughts that sometimes we have before we are put in those particular situations, and how to overcome those fears and that anxiety that comes with pursuing such actions. And I wanted to create this short little video, and I'll outline the things that I've learned, and maybe this might be of value for someone that is watching. So the first useful thing to understand is why exactly our brain feels this way. Why do we start to, get sweaty, or why does our heart start to beat a lot faster when we know we're going to put ourselves out there in a particular social setting that we are inherently uncomfortable with, right? And it goes back to just essentially evolution, how humans have existed in the past during the hunter-gatherer time. If you were of a particular society, you wouldn't really interact with other societies that you didn't really know of much, obviously, because this is back predating humans as we know it today. And back then, if you were approached, or if you were in the process of going out there and meeting people from different societies, there was always this inherent threat of essentially being killed by this particular group of people, because resources were scarce and human life was not as valuable. I mean, it was as valuable as it is now, but it was a lot easier to die, essentially. Let's just say it in that way. It was a lot easier for someone else to kill you, to take care to attain the resources that you possess, right? And so the reason why we feel these particular things, why we feel anxious, is because our body is essentially in flight or fight mode when we are putting ourselves out there. And this is because this is how it's just been tuned over centuries and millenniums of humans existing, right? And that's again going back to how we were. It's more of an adaptation, essentially, if you really look at it, that hey, these people that I don't really know might kill me, so I'm letting my your body is essentially letting you know that hey, there's danger here. But obviously now things are different. If you're meeting someone at a party, there's a good chance they won't kill you, depending on where you meet them. Let's be honest, there might be some parties like that, but hopefully you're not going to parties like that, and you're not going to die at this particular party. But we still feel this. We still get this flight or fight feeling in our body, and that's why we feel it. So understanding that hey, this is the thing that I'm feeling is just my body's way of protecting me from danger, but obviously in the 21st century that doesn't exist in this particular case. So I at least I know why I'm feeling it. So in the beginning I just assumed that this thing that I'm feeling is something that is genetic in me, which is making it harder for me to socialize. And so I drew conclusions from that this is not for me and I'm an introvert. But that wasn't the case. I was just feeling these things. It's because my brain was wired that way, and every human is wired that way. So I think it's very normal to feel these things, and I think that's the first step in putting yourself out there and becoming more comfortable in these situations is to understand why you're feeling stressed, to understand why you're feeling anxious in the first place. So, after understanding why you feel the way you do before attending a social event, why you feel anxious, why your heart starts racing, the next step is to start reframing your thoughts, because a lot of the times we have these negative thoughts, these negative biases as to what would happen when we put ourselves out there. We start to think, hey, what if I make a fool out of myself? What if nobody likes me? What if nobody wants to hear me? Nobody wants to talk to me in that particular social setting. These thoughts are very normal. I've experienced them a million times. I'm sure every human has. Again, going back to how we are wired, right? When we don't know anyone, our brain's trying to tell us, our body's trying to tell us that, hey, maybe I shouldn't be talking to this particular person because they are an external entity, they might kill us. But when we start to sort of rewire these negative thoughts and reframe them in a way that are more positive, we start tricking our brain, or maybe not tricking it, but trying to train our brain to alleviate the stress, the negativity that comes with this sort of interaction, and replace it with positive things about that particular situation that you're putting yourself in. So let's say your negative I guess thought could be that, hey, nobody's gonna like me, but then you got to be a bit more logical with it. Maybe you've put yourself in these situations in the past, and you've found that, hey, the one event that I went to, I actually made a friend there 2 years ago, and now I'm still friends with him. That means I did it then, I can do it again. So the negative thought that I'm having is not really realistic, it's not logical. If anything, maybe some people might not want to talk to me, and that's fine, but that doesn't mean everyone's not going to like me there. So, reframing these particular thoughts that you might have, and I emphasize on the very fact reframing because you're still going to have thoughts. It's not like you can go as a blank state unless you're a monk or something, right? You're going to have thoughts. Now, either they can be negative thoughts or they can be positive thoughts. So, what you'll have to do is essentially train your brain, and your thoughts essentially become reality over time, not in a voodoo magic way. It's the things that you think is the things that you end up saying, and the things that you end up saying is essentially who you are as a person. That's the information that you're parlaying to other people. And so it's very important to control your thoughts, and that's why the next step of the puzzle is to understand how you can do that. It's always good to imagine the best case scenario of any particular event that you might be put into. So, what the best case scenario at a networking event is that, hey, I might get a job that I wanted, this dream job that I have, the company that I want to work for. Maybe it's Tesla. Tesla is in this particular networking event. Maybe it's Careers Up or whatever it is, right? And you know that the best case scenario is that you go up and talk to that person who's standing in front of the Tesla sign, and you tell him about, introduce yourself, and you tell him about your passion for engineering or whatever it is, right? And then your recruiter likes you and he refers you and you get the job. That is the best case scenario. You have to sort of repeat that in your head. That's potentially going to happen. And maybe that doesn't happen, but that doesn't matter. That's not what we should care about. We should care about the fact that, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is how I'm going to go about it. I'm not going to think negatively. And this takes practice. 100%. It's easier said than done. But it is the main thing that's going to allow you to alleviate that stress when it comes to meeting new people in any given environment. And so the third and the final thing that has allowed me to become a lot more social and a lot more of a social butterfly than I was before is to just understand that I'm going to fail. A lot of the social interactions that I might have might not go to plan, and that's okay. There's no problem in that. In the end of the day, we are humans and we all have our flaws, and sometimes the flaw might be in the other person, right? Maybe you are perfectly fine, and when it comes to conversing with the other person, might be a bit of an oddball. They might not ask you questions back, and you're just that one person that's out there putting yourself out there and doing the right things, but you might not be reciprocated the way that you should be. So just understanding that maybe it's not always your fault, and there's gonna be situations where you're gonna feel awkward and you're gonna feel like, hey, maybe I could have done that better. But that's how you grow socially, right? You gotta keep putting yourself out there, and this is just something that has worked for me. And again, I just wanted to create this short little video. outlining the three things that I felt like have really allowed me to become a better version of myself, at least socially speaking, and I hope this helps someone or anyone that's watching. Thank you.